Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for the 2019 Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant Bidders Conference webinar. My name is Jessica Castellon, Program Analyst here at the Department of Community Services and Development. Today I will be covering the major elements of the Notice of Funding Availability or NOFA. For your convenience, this webinar is pre-recorded and posted on the CSD public website. This will give you an opportunity to visit any slide at a later time or watch at your own pace. Please feel free to write down any questions as we move along. We will be sharing how you can submit these questions at the end of the webinar. Also, please pay close attention to any additions to this year's NOFA. I will be pointing those out throughout the webinar. First, let's cover the agenda. The agenda is in line with the NOFA, so if you have it in front of you, I encourage you to follow along. First, we're going to cover the background of the EITC and some of the changes that happened this year. We're also going to be talking about the purpose, goals, and objectives of the NOFA, the eligibility requirements and minimum qualifications, the available funding and the target areas, some grant requirements. Some grant requirements have also been added this year, so please pay close attention. We'll be talking about letters of reference, subcontractors. We'll also be providing a projected timeline, and we'll also be covering in detail the application package, including the scored documents. We'll also be providing information about how you can submit questions about the NOFA at the end of this webinar. For the past few years, the California Department of Community Services and Development has collaborated with the Franchise Tax Board to administer the California Earned Income Tax Credit Education and Outreach Grants, and since 2018, the Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant. CSD's mission is to reduce poverty for California. Under the umbrella of the California Health and Human Services Agency, CSD partners with a network of private, nonprofit, and local government community service providers statewide dedicated to helping low-income families achieve and maintain economic security, meet their home energy needs, and access renewable energy. CSD administers California's federal funding share of the Community Services Block Grant, the Low-Income House Energy Assistance Program, Weatherization Assistance Program, and the State of California's Low-Income Weatherization Program. First, let's talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit. The federal EITC is a benefit administered by the Internal Revenue Service that provides a cashback credit for working individuals and families with low to moderate income. The EITC is widely regarded as one of the nation's most powerful tools for lifting low-income people out of poverty. In 2015, California established the first ever California EITC, CalEITC, extending a new cashback credit to the poorest working families in the state. Now in 2019, the state of California has expanded the CalEITC to further assist families facing the state's cost crisis. The fiscal year 2019-2020 California State Budget Act more than doubled the investment in CalEITC to $1 billion, which will increase the number of participating households from 2 million to 3 million. In addition, the Budget Act included a new 1,000 credit for families with children under the age of 6, and expanded the income eligibility to 30,000 to include full-time workers making the 2022 minimum wage of $15 an hour. This will significantly increase the average yearly amount individuals will receive through the credit. Now let's get started on talking about the NOFA. The purpose of the NOFA is to increase awareness to free tax preparation assistance to eligible Californians and to support new or expansion free tax preparation activities. The goal is to increase access to free tax preparation assistance services for eligible low-income Californians. The NOFA has outlined the following objectives of how to achieve this goal: establishing new site offerings, extending hours of operation, increasing staff, improving outreach, and increasing volunteer recruitment and retention. In addition, maintenance or expansion of efforts specifically created by the Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant Funding Award in 2018 has also been added as an objective. Please make sure you thoroughly review the goal and objectives in order to include these in your application. Next up, let's talk about the codes of conduct. Because the Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant is in support of the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, known as the VITA program, grant recipients will be required to follow all existing guidance governing VITA site operations and avoid any actions creating the appearance of violating federal laws governing voluntary tax compliance. This includes that all volunteers and administrators must adhere to the standards of conduct listed on this slide. This includes not accepting payment or solicit donations for federal or state tax return preparation, not soliciting business from tax filers assisted or used knowledge gained about tax filers for any direct or indirect personal benefit for the volunteer or any other specific individual, not knowingly preparing false returns, not engaging in any criminal, dishonest, or other conduct deemed to have a negative effect, and treating all tax filers in a professional, courteous, and respectful manner. In order to be eligible for funding, your organization must meet the following. Be a private, nonprofit, or public organization qualified under Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code, a local government agency. State agencies are not eligible for funding, a federally recognized Indian tribal government, or a registered business entity with the California Secretary of State. In addition, you must be an existing volunteer income tax assistance VITA program administrator, maintain subgrants with existing VITA program administrators, or have an existing or prior relationship with a free tax preparation assistance provider. You must also be eligible to receive public funds and be in good standing with federal and state administering grant issuing agencies. Now let's discuss the minimum qualifications. The qualifications can also be found on page 4 of the NOFA. Applicants should demonstrate the knowledge of the EITC, CAL-EITC, and the free tax preparation assistance activities. They should have 3 years of experience successfully providing, coordinating, and implementing free tax preparation assistance. Please note that the experience does not have to be the most recent past 3 years, nor do they necessarily have to be consecutive. They must demonstrate the established and trusted relationships with community partners serving low-income populations. They must demonstrate the capacity to successfully implement and deliver all elements of the proposed activities in the application. They must have the ability to provide free tax preparation assistance activities appropriate to the language and culture of the target population. And lastly, they should have the ability to collect and report reliable, valid, and timely data of all proposed activities. On the screen, you will find a chart describing the available funding in target areas. You can also find this chart on page 6 of the NOFA. A total of $5 million is available to support free tax preparation assistance activities for the 2019 tax year. I want to bring your attention to Target Area 1, statewide. The anticipated number of grants is 2 to 3. Statewide applicants are expected to serve eligible residents across the state, providing coverage to the broadest audience, reaching the largest number of eligible Californians through a variety of strategies. For example, statewide grantees may host free tax preparation community or group events, provide support in relation to training volunteers, or offer training and technical assistance. Target areas 2 through 11 are counties identified as having the highest proportion of eligible California residents who will benefit from free tax preparation assistance. Using census data, target counties were identified by considering the number of potentially eligible Californians with incomes at approximately the income level associated with the federal VITA eligibility standards. An applicant may apply for more than one target area. However, a separate application for each target area must be submitted. Each application is considered a standalone application and should be customized to meet the needs of each target area. An applicant can apply up to the maximum contract award on this slide. For example, if you're applying to Target Area 2, Los Angeles County, you can apply up to $469,000. As part of the application package, you will be submitting a required budget summary and budget detail. We will cover these later in the webinar. Now let's talk about inappropriate use of funds. This list can also be found on pages 6 and 7 of the NOFA. Funds cannot be used to pay volunteers. Grantees may reimburse volunteers for travel costs or to meet a demand in underserved areas. Funds cannot be used to purchase food. Funds cannot be used to supplant existing federal, state, or private funds allocated to conduct the same or similar work. Funds may not be used for any political or legislative advocacy work, nor to promote organizations' names of grantees. Costs are to be allocated for NOFA activities are not intended to support organizational overhead. An applicant should make every effort possible to minimize overhead administrative costs and target available funding towards providing direct services for eligible Californians. When creating your budget and scope of work, please ensure that you adhere to all the points on this slide. Now let's go over the grant requirements. These can also be found on page 7 of the NOFA. Please make sure you review these carefully as I will be going over requirements new to 2019. I want to bring your attention to bullet points 3, 4, and 5. For new awardees, grant funds must be used for new or expanded free tax preparation assistance efforts. For applicants awarded funds under the 2018 FTPA program, funds must be used to expand and maintain expansion efforts specifically undertaken by the FTPA assistance grant funding awarded in 2018. Grant funds should not replace or supplant existing free tax preparation assistance funds, excluding funds received under the 2018 FTPA grant. In other words, if you're a new applicant, an applicant that was not awarded in 2018, grant funds must be used for new or expanded free tax preparation assistance efforts and may not be used to supplant existing free tax preparation assistance funds. However, if you're a returning applicant who was awarded in 2018, you may use 2019 funds in order to maintain and support previous 2018 expanded efforts. Now I want to bring your attention to bullet point number 8. Although CSD is currently finalizing the monthly reporting, grantees can expect the following. Expenditures and narrative. Can expect to report the following. Expenditures and narrative. Number of federal returns completed. Number of federal EITC returns completed. Dollar amount of federal EITC claim. Number of state tax returns completed. Number of state tax returns claiming Cali ATC. Dollar amount of Cali ATC claimed, and volunteers trained and certified. Grantees must comply with programmatic and fiscal reporting. I also want to bring your attention to bullet point number 9. Grantees must participate in coordination calls with CSD and awarded grantees. Coordination calls provide training and opportunities to collaborate with other grantees. Let's finish reviewing the grant requirements. I want to bring your attention to bullet point number 2. Grantees must provide volunteer tax preparation assistance services free of charge. Bullet point number 4 also states grantees must ensure volunteers are properly trained to the level of returns they prepare and must monitor the quality and technical proficiency of volunteers on an ongoing basis. I also want to bring your attention to bullet point number 5. Limited funds may be utilized to provide equipment to support the filing of taxes for eligible filers. However, every effort should be made to access in-kind equipment from the IRS. Bullet points 6 and 7 state, training offered through the IRS or the FTB should be accessed to train volunteers when feasible. Lastly, I want to point out grantees must coordinate with Cali ITC education outreach grantees in their respective target area to increase awareness of free tax preparation assistance. Applicants are required to submit 2 letters of reference. References should be dated within a 12-month period and should come from organizations that are familiar with the applicant's qualifications, experience, and past performance on free tax preparation assistance related work. Something to note is that applicants who were previously awarded free tax preparation assistance grants in 2018 do not need to resubmit reference letters for this grant cycle. Next, we'll be talking about subcontracting work under the FTPA grant. Now let's go over subcontracting. To assist the grantee in meeting the needs of the target area, CSD encourages grantees to subcontract free tax preparation assistance services. The subcontractors should be established organizations that maintain an existing community present and trusted relationships, and that can demonstrate experience in providing free tax preparation services. If grantees plan on using subcontractors, the awardee will be responsible for reimbursing the subcontractor. CSD will reimburse awardees on a monthly reimbursement schedule. Keep in mind that both the awardee and subcontractor are subject to all state laws and regulations. Now we want to bring your attention to the projected timeline. You can also find this timeline on page 8 of the NOFA. The NOFA was released July 22, 2019. You are currently listening to the Bidders Conference, released July 26, 2019. It's important to note that the deadline for submitting questions about the NOFA is July 30, 2019. Same as the Notice of Intent to Apply is also due July 30, 2019. We'll be discussing these items in future slides. Questions and answers will be posted on the CSD website August 2, 2019, and the deadline for submitting completed applications to CSD by close of business is August 12, 2019. We'll also post a notice of awardees onto the public website September 16, 2019. Contracts will be sent to awardees September 19, 2019, and contracts will be due back to CSD September 27, 2019. The contract term for the NOFA is October 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Next, we'll be discussing the intent to apply. Now we will transition into the documents that applicants will need to submit. Here's a copy of the Notice of Intent to Apply. We ask that you please complete and submit this form by the close of business on July 30th, 2019. By submitting a Notice of Intent to Apply, applicants assist CSD with estimating the number of applications we will receive. The notice should be emailed to CSD at csbgdiv@csd.ca.gov. The Notice of Intent is not required, but CSD strongly encourages applicants to submit this form. If you're applying for more than one target area, please submit one notice and mark the applicable target areas in one form. On this slide, you'll find the application packet requirements. The application packet must include the following, and in this order. 1. The application cover sheet. 2. Application narrative template. 3. Scope of work. 4. Budget forms including a budget summary and budget detail. 5. 2 letters of reference except if you are a 2018 awardee. 6. A payee data record form. And 7. A contract certifications clauses form. The file name is included on this chart for your convenience. On this screen, you will find a copy of the application cover sheet. This will serve as a top document when mailing your application packages to CSD. Please include all the relevant information. Applicant name is the full legal name of your organization. No acronyms, please. The target area should be listed by its number followed by its county. That means you will need to submit a separate cover sheet for each target area you are applying for under this NOFA. Please indicate a primary point of contact. This may be different than your organization's executive director. The primary point of contact will be the best person for CSD to contact regarding your application to this NOFA. Under application certification, an authorized individual must type their name and title, provide a wet signature, and date at the bottom of the form. By signing the application certification, your organization acknowledges that it possesses all the necessary requirements. Now let's move on to the scored components of the NOFA. Now let's go over the first component of the application narrative template. This component will ask you about your experience conducting free tax preparation assistance. This component is worth 25 points. You'll be asked to detail the following: your experience conducting free tax preparation assistance to low to moderate income individuals and families in a specific target area. You'll also ask you to include the number of years. B. Experience conducting outreach to eligible populations. C. Operational readiness and expertise in conducting budgeting and implementing similar scale free tax preparation assistance activities. Please note that C is a good place to address any relevant grant administration experience or activities. Let's continue from the previous slide. You'll also be asked about your performance as it relates to tax returns completed on an annual basis for the past 3 years. Please see the chart on the screen where it says tax year, total federal tax returns completed. This is a place where you respond to this question. Please note that applicants previously awarded a free tax preparation assistance grant may use 2017 data as a baseline to calculate the 2019 tax year projection. In other words, if you received 2018 funding, 2017 is your new baseline. This is also a good place to address any reduction in services from year to year in the table provided below. You will also be asked to describe your organization's plan to expand free tax preparation services in your area. Please note, for new applicants, you must describe any expanded efforts including extended site offerings, extended hours of operation, increased staffing, or increased volunteers. For previously awarded FTPA grants, you must also describe your organization's new proposed expansion efforts and describe what activities your organization will maintain from the FTPA efforts in 2018. Let's go over the strength of the program, the second component of the application narrative template. This is worth 20 points. You'll be asked to describe your strategies for volunteer recruitment, retention, and training. Your plan should include strategies to recruit new volunteers, the method that you will use to train volunteers, any unique training curriculum, and any strategies utilized to retain volunteers. You'll also be asked to provide the total number of IRS certified volunteers you had in the last 3 tax years. You'll also be asked to project. You'll notice a table on the screen. This is where you'll address this question. In addition, you'll be asked to describe your organization's plan to expand volunteer engagement in your area. It's important to note that if you're a 2018 FTPA grant, your organization must describe how it will maintain the level of volunteer engagement achieved from the previous year. The third component of the application narrative template will ask you to describe your focus on target populations. This component is worth 20 points. The first question will ask you to describe your organization's plan to focus on extending services to eligible populations in hard-to-reach underserved areas. Be sure to include the following: a description of the need for free tax preparation assistance in the community, a discussion of the underserved population and underserved geographic area, and any services being provided for special populations. Second, you'll be asked to describe your organization's outreach plan, or how you will make potentially eligible individuals aware of the free tax preparation assistance services. Be sure to address any messages, methods, materials, or channels that you will use to target the eligible population in your target area. The fourth component of the application narrative template will ask you to describe your program measures. This is worth 5 points. You must describe the means your organization has in place to capture data, measure results, and provide reports, including the tools and systems used for the data analysis. Be sure to describe your methods in this section. The fifth component to the application narrative template applies to statewide applicants only. This question is worth 5 points. Statewide applicants must describe an organization's free tax preparation assistance objectives in addition to program goals for the award year. The organization must have additional program goals that go above and beyond the FTPA objectives. Goals should be specific and measurable. Some examples may include e-buses, large group events, trainings, and financial education asset building programs. Please remember that statewide applicants must have a wide range of activities across the state. The last component of the application narrative template is preference points. Applicants may also receive up to 5 preference points who plan and have experience offering financial education and asset building services at the free tax preparation sites. Services can include helping applicants open savings accounts, helping with budgeting, credit counseling, and other financial educational services. Please make sure you respond to this question if you would like to be considered for preference points. Next, we'll be talking about the second score document, the scope of work. The scope of work is worth 40 points. Applicants must include identifying information on the new or established sites to be expanded, projected total hours of operation at each site, the number of returns projected to be completed at each site, and services to support limited English proficiency filers. We'll be diving into more detail on the next slide. For your convenience, I'll be walking through the scope of work as a new applicant and as a previously awarded applicant on the next slide. First, I will start as a new applicant. I want to direct your attention to the top left side. You'll be asked if you are a 2018 Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant awardee. As a new applicant, you will simply mark no. Now I want to direct your attention below, where it says 2017, 2018, 2019 tax year site data. You will notice in the instructions below that applicants not awarded in 2018 are not required to complete 2017 site data. That's because 2018 tax year site data serves as your baseline, so you can simply leave 2017 tax year site data unchecked. Now I want to bring your attention to the middle columns, where it says total hours of operation for 2017, 2018, and 2019. Similar to the first columns, you can mark total hours of operation for 2017 as 0, as this is not your baseline. Your baseline is 2018, so you must provide total hours of operation for 2018 and 2019. However, you can leave 2017 as 0. Same with federal tax returns completed. Since 2018 is your baseline, you must submit data in the 2018 column and you must project for the 2019 column, but you can leave 0 for 2017. Detailed instructions are also included in the workbook. However, if you have any additional questions, we'll be reviewing how you can submit those at the end of this webinar. Next, I will talk about the scope of work for previously awarded applicants. First, I want to direct your attention to the top left side. You will be asked, were you a 2018 Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant awardee? Please make sure you mark yes. This will identify and indicate to CSD that 2017 is your baseline data. Below, you'll notice where it says 2017, 2018, 2019 is circled. We want to bring your attention to these columns. Since you're a previously awarded applicant, you want to make sure you thoroughly fill this out. You want to make sure that if a site was open in 2017, you check that box. And if it was open in 2018, you also check that box. And if you project that it's going to be open in 2019, you also check that box. This will identify the amount of growth. I also want to point out the middle columns, where it says total hours of operation 2017, 2018, and 2019. Again, for previously awarded applicants, 2017 serves as the baseline data, so you must fill out this column. You also must fill out the 2018 data, and then you can use your 2017 data as your baseline for your 2019 projection. Same with federal returns completed in 2017, 2018, and 2019. You can use 2017 as your baseline to make projections for your 2019 data. If you have any questions about how to fill out the scope of work, we'll be talking about how to submit questions at the end of this webinar. Now let's go over the budget summary. The purpose of the budget summary is to provide CSD with information on the applicant's proposed budget. Please note that the budget is not a score document in the application. The total of each budgeted activity should be provided on the budget summary for each applicable line item fully supported on the budget detail page. We'll be talking about the budget detail on the next slide. If you are conducting free tax preparation activities that do not fit under the categories of salaries and fringe benefits, travel, equipment, supplies, or subcontractor, you can include these costs in the other cost line item. Remember, the budgeted line items should correspond with the activities listed in your scope of work. The total budget amount is auto-populated, so please do not alter this box. For administrative costs, grantees should make every effort possible to limit overhead. If administrative costs will be allocated, costs must be fully explained in the budget detail. Again, we'll be going over the budget detail on the next slide. Also, for equipment, limited funds may be used to purchase equipment to support the filing of taxes for eligible filers. However, every effort should be made to access in-kind equipment from the IRS. The budget summary can be found in the 2019 FTPA Supplemental Workbook. Next, we'll be covering the budget detail form. Now let's go over the budget detail. The budget detail asks you to describe the activities under the following budget categories: salaries, wages, and fringe benefits, travel, equipment, supplies, subcontractors, and other costs. Now let's review some examples. Under salary, wages, and fringe benefits, you'll notice that an example says Jane Smith, site coordinator. In detail, it says 10% of annual salary of $60,000. Cost, $6,000. Explanation, reassigning staff member to FTPA grant. Expansion, meaning that because Jane Smith was being reassigned, this was an expanded activity. You'll note that under explanation, you must indicate whether this activity is new for 2019, an expansion activity, or if you are maintaining an activity from a 2018 FTPA grant. For example, under travel, training travel site coordinators and volunteers. This is reimbursements for travel expenses. However, this expense was supported by an FTPA grant in 2018, so this grantee is also supporting and maintaining the activity from 2018. Please make sure to indicate that in the explanation. The budget detail total amount, similar to the budget summary total, must not exceed the allocation for each designated target area. The budget detail should also match the budget summary. Once awards are made, CSD may ask awarded applicants to provide further information in the budget detail. Next up, we'll be talking about a few forms that are required to be submitted with the application. There are a couple forms you must submit with your application. The payee data record is one of them. If you have filled out a payee data record in the past for CSD or another state agency, you must complete a new one for this NOFA. A few things to consider with this form. First, as indicated in the box outlined in red at the top under 2, enter your organization's legal business name, email address, mailing address, and business address. Second, as indicated in the box outlined in green at the top under 3, enter your organization's Federal Employer Identification Number and check the box that corresponds to your business type. Everyone applying for this grant should be exempt nonprofit, indicated with the arrow on the slide. Third, as indicated in the box outlined in blue at the top under 4, check that your organization has a permanent place of business in California or is qualified through the Secretary of State to do business in California. Lastly, as indicated in the box outlined in purple at the top under 5, provide the name, title, a wet signature for at least one copy, and telephone number of the individual completing this form. Provide the date for the form that was completed. Now let's move on to the contractor certification clause. The second form required to be submitted with your application is the contractor certification clauses. A completed contractor certification clauses form provides CSD with proof that your organization abides by certain requirements for doing business with the state of California. For a full list, refer to the form. This form is 4 pages and must be completed in its entirety and contain a wet signature for at least one copy. Next, we'll be talking about the application pass-fail review process. CSD will conduct an application pass or fail review. Please make sure that you submit one original single-sided application package plus 4 exact copies. Make sure that all documents are completed. Make sure that you have full contact information and applicable signatures. Make sure you include a flash drive with an electronic copy of all application documents. And make sure that the funding amount requested does not exceed the funding limit. CSD may disqualify and not score applications that receive a fail mark. Late applications will be rejected and will not be considered for funding. Now let's go over the evaluation review process. Proposal elements are evaluated and assessed by an evaluation team using consensus scoring methodology. Scores will be awarded based on the team's collective scoring assessment. Applicants must receive a final total score of at least 70 points to be placed into the rank order and to be considered for funding. Applications proposing to serve a specific target area will only be scored against other applications proposing to serve the same target area. Next, we'll be talking about how to submit questions about the NOFA. If you have any questions about the NOFA, please email csd@cspgdiv@csd.ca.gov. Use the subject line, Questions on 2019 Free Tax Preparation Assistance Grant. Submit questions by Tuesday, July 30th, 2019, close of business. Questions and answers will be posted on the CSD website on August 2nd, 2019. You can find it under the Contract Opportunities tab. CSD thanks you for attending the Bidders Conference and looks forward to your proposals.